Wrap-up time. March was a great reading month in general, but still a failure when it comes to me sticking to my confounded TBR. You can watch my March TBR game over here, but the TLDR is as follows. We had Caliban's War and Crooked Kingdom as leftovers from my February TBR, Circe for a random bookshelf pick, Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Search for a graphic novel, The Black Prism as a special mission to read a TBR veteran, 1,000 Splendid Suns as a random bookshelf jar pick, and Northanger Abbey as another random bookshelf jar pick. So we have these 7 books in total, but I also do every single month the Buzzword Reading Challenge and the Year in Eldia Adventure Reading Challenge as well. I will link both in the video description, so we will talk about the books I read for them as well. So let's go through the books that I read one by one in the order in which I picked them up. First, I picked Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. This is an adult sci-fi novel and the second book in the Expanse series. This book was a trip. At 25%, I was considering DNFing it because I did not like the main characters and the choices the authors made for them. They were hypocritical and inconsiderate and violent, which I generally have no issue with, but it went unaddressed and I can't stand for that. Just because somebody's your main character doesn't mean that gives you an excuse to let them get away with everything. Matter of fact, you have even more reason to keep them accountable. All that being said, I am so glad I gave this book a chance because it did get better and most of my concerns were eventually addressed. On top of that, the pacing of this book is perfect and the action is sublime. The plot is absolutely amazing and so epic. I ended up giving the book 4 stars and I'm so excited to continue with the story even more than I was until this moment. The second book I picked was The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. This is an adult epic fantasy and the first book in the Lightbringer series. And in addition to being on my TBR already, I ended up using this book to cover my prompt for Year in Eldia Adventure Reading Challenge, which was to fight a giant and read a book over 500 pages. This one is over 600 pages, so it covers it pretty nicely. Okay, so this book. Let me first say that I like this book very much because what I'm about to say next might leave you with the impression that I didn't. I love the world, the characters, and the magic system of this book, and therefore wanted to see more of that instead of the hyper mega detailed descriptions of sailing vessels and crafting and battle actions. Seriously, the final battle of this book takes like 11 pages, I'm not exaggerating here, and that's just the second part of this battle, and the author spent most of it droning about random color crafters doing random battle stuff in excruciating detail. At one point, I was considering DNFing this amazing story at like 92% just so that I don't have to read about another random person doing something that doesn't matter one bit. I also wish that the villain was better developed instead of being someone who was mentioned once randomly and then shows up at the last battle to spook us. The story was so good, but because of all the things that I just said, I think it didn't feel as epic as it should have. Also, maybe it's just me, but I wish that the author had kept it a little more vague with the sexual details. At times, it was more than slightly awkward to read this book. Despite all of that, the author has crafted a magnificent world and a very intricate and complicated magic system that I really enjoyed, as well as made some very interesting characters. He also has a great sense of humor. Honestly, I chuckled out loud a few times, and that doesn't happen very often when I read books. And I'm gonna be remiss not to mention the multiple twists throughout this book and the amazing way that the book ended. So I consider this reading experience a net positive. I gave the book 3.5 stars and I'm very happy to continue with the series. Next, I picked up The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This is a children's classic and it wasn't on my TBR for March, but I ended up picking it up for my Buzzword Reading Challenge, which the word for March was secret. I'm gonna be very short here and just gonna say that this story was so lovely and heartwarming and adorable. It was magical and beautiful and funny and made me cry and I loved it. Also, this is the perfect book for spring, so if you haven't read it yet and you're planning on reading it, now is the right time to do it. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, that is. Otherwise, I would advise to pick it around September. I gave the book 5 stars. Next, I picked up Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Search, which is a graphic novel and the second installment in the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics series. I read this within a few hours and enjoyed it immensely. The world, as always, was magnificent and I am really jiving with the art style of this comic series. However, I am a little bit disappointed by how the character we were looking for turned out to be, as well as how the avatar acted during the defining action. So I gave this one 4 stars because I really enjoyed it and I'm still very excited to continue with the series. Next, I picked up 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. This is a standalone historical fiction set in Afghanistan, and it follows 2 different women with the backdrop of Afghanistan's somewhat recent history. And man, oh man, did I love this story. I know I'm late to the party with this one like I usually am, but if you have considered this book and haven't been sure whether to pick it up, please do so. You won't be disappointed. It's the best and worst of humanity told in a way that's gonna touch your heart, and it's finding hope in the midst of despair. It's zooming in on global tragedy to see the small suffer through it and endure. It's both heartbreaking and somehow full of hope. I gave it 5 stars and I can't stop thinking about it many days after I finished it. If you'd like to see me navel gaze about this book, you can watch this embarrassing vlog over here. Great read. Next, I picked Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is a widely known classic by one of my favorite authors. It is set for the most part in Bath and the abbey that is mentioned in the title, and follows an ordinary heroine who learns to navigate society and, would you believe it, finds love. The story is, as always for this author, full of quirky, outstanding characters and lots of humor. What was surprising to me about this one was the emphasis on stories and the continuous reflection on the merits of reading fiction, which I quite enjoyed. I liked the setup and the outcome, as well as the characters we were introduced to. Especially the villains, their introduction and subsequent reveal was so masterfully and subtly done, I would have clapped had I not been holding a book. What I didn't like, though, was the overuse of misunderstanding to drive the plot. I wish it was minimized for the sake of relationship development between our main character and her love interest. Overall, I had a good time and gave the book 3.5 stars. Next, I picked up something that was not on my TBR at all, and that was White Sand Volume 2 by Brandon Sanderson, Rick Hoskin, and Julius Gopes. This is a graphic novel that is part of the Cosmere and the second installment in the White Sand series. This is a reread for me, and I picked it up because I wanted to remember something for a future project. I love this story. I love the world, I love the magic system, I love the characters, I love the plot, all of that. But to be honest, I have a bit of an issue with the art style of this graphic novel. It is way too busy with tons of unnecessary and, worst of all, very unclear details. The artist, in my opinion, also didn't do a great job sequencing the story or giving enough setup or drawing action for that matter, making it near impossible to understand what was going on or what was the reason for things happening the way they were. I gave this volume 3.5 stars and will continue to hope for a better medium for this story, because I do believe it deserves better. I'd like to clarify that I have no issue with the artist himself, and I think he's very talented. I just don't think he did a great job in this case. At least I struggled with it. Maybe it's just a me thing. And those were all the books that I finished in March. As you can see, I didn't manage to complete my TBR, though I have started both of the books that are remaining on my TBR. I am about 170 pages through Crooked Kingdom, and I'm planning on finishing during the next few days. And I already started Circe as well, though I am about 40 pages in, so nothing to write home about. On top of that, I started yet another book to make it worse, and that book is Full Moon by Jim Butcher. It's an urban fantasy and the second book in the Dresden Files series. In my defense, this is on my 2023 TBR, and I really just wanted to read it, okay? I just really wanted to pick it up, and I'm already like 60%, maybe 50%, let's call it 50% through it, and I'm having the best time. This book is so good, so much better than the first one even. I love this world, I love these characters, I love the action, the mystery, the magic, all of that. Love it, love it, love it. I think Jim Butcher is super talented. I'm so excited to read this. Honestly, I just want to binge read this series now. So yeah, I'm having a great time. And as always, all the books that I don't finish this month are automatically transferred to the next month. Nothing is lost. No books left behind. And that's my wrap up for March. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd be super excited to know what you read in the month of March, and if you read any of these books that I just talked about and what you thought about them. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to see my February wrap up, check out this video. Bye!